Greetings, everybody. I'm Michael. Welcome back to my studio and another video on how I podcast. Remember, I'm not going to tell you how to podcast. I'm going to show you how I podcast, the equipment I use, and how I use it. And maybe you'll learn a thing or two, or perhaps you'll say that's ridiculous, and in which case that's fine too, and thank you for watching. Today I want to talk about my handy-dandy, my faithful and trusty digital audio recorder, the DR05, made by TASCAM. This is a great digital audio recorder, jam-packed with features. It is robust with features, worth every penny of its $95, as I saw listed on Amazon Prime today. Now, a word about its big brother, the DR40, which is roughly $75 more. If I had the $75 extra, I would get that unit. It's every bit as good as this, and the extra features makes it worth $75 more. The number one thing for me and my application, my use, is the input. Right here, this is a microphone input on the DR05. On the DR40, you can flip a switch and change this from mic in to line in. And since my mixing board, the outputs are line out, getting back to our last two videos, talking about voltages and math and power, line out is putting out more voltage, more power, and a line in capability on a digital audio recorder is able to compensate and handle that extra power. Because this is a microphone in on the DR05, I have to set my recording levels down to 0, all the way down to 0. And this actually answers a question that was asked either on the last video or the one prior to that. Person asked, why don't you set your recording levels at your board using the pre-fade listen switch and according to the VU meters on the mixing board? I can't, because I have to set my levels to the DR05. And you can see right now that it is about -12 dB. And if I get real animated, it'll pop up every once in a while to about -7. And, well, there was -6 right there, and that's okay. That leaves me plenty of headroom to work with the file in my DAW. To recap that, the DR40 for just $75 more has that line input that I really, really want. But in all, I mean, let's just be frank. This recording device here has been serving me well for at least a couple of years that I can recall. And that's the only, and that's not even a drawback. That's just an aesthetics thing. That's just a personal preference. I don't want my recording level set to 0 and have nowhere, to go down from there. But it works just fine. It works perfectly. So $95, it'll work good for you too. A couple of the other features that come along with the DR40 is that it is a 4-track recorder if you are looking for such a device. I don't need one. But it also has inputs for XLR and 1/4-inch TRS inputs. That's pretty nice. But what do I love about this TASCAM DR05? The list is pretty long. It's pretty robust. First of all, the build quality right here, and my hand next to it so you can see how big this is. It feels very good and sturdy in hand. The build quality is excellent. Excellent. A little dirt on there. Right? I don't know what that is. Yeah. And I still have, after all this time, I still have the plastic cover over the screen because if at all possible, I leave those on until they just run away on their own accord. The Zoom H1 is what I was comparing to when I was doing research in order to decide which digital audio recorder to get. The H1 is the comparable in the comparable price range of the Tascam. And so I watched some videos, and one of the things that stuck out to me was the reviewer was talking about the Zoom, and he said the only problem that he had with it was that it kind of had a rattling to it. It was he actually said that it had kind of a toy-like quality to it. And so that concerned me. Now, I'm sure that the newer versions, even of the H1, don't have that problem. I'll bet you that there are many people watching this video that have a Zoom H1 that absolutely love it, and I don't blame them. It's a great unit. Also, in this review, he did an audio shootout, and so he lined up the H1 with the DR05, and I believe that he had the bigger brother versions of each of those, so the DR40 and the H2 or what have you. And to my ears, I just preferred the sound of the TASCAM just slightly over the Zoom. That's why I chose this unit, and I do not regret it at all. No regrets. The audio quality is stellar on this unit. The built-in microphones are fantastic. These are in an A-B configuration. That is, they are pointing out away from each other to the right and to the left. On the DR40, you can have two modes. You can have it in the AB, or you can flip them over to the XY position. It's not technically really an XY position, because to be XY, one microphone is actually sitting on top of the other. So there is that space of a half an inch or an inch between where the diaphragms are. But that's neither here nor there. The DR05 has a great menu system, and it's easy to understand. As I flip through here, all the different options that you can set up, and there are a couple of options that are buried in the menus, or actually a different way to get to them. So I'm going to recommend that if you buy yourself a DR05, that you learn everything in this owner's manual. It looks pretty thick and daunting, but that's because it's in 6 different languages. So whichever language that you speak, I'm assuming you speak English at least, watching this video. Just read it, take it in the bathroom with you, read it as you go to bed, learn it and love it, become familiar with all of the features of this fantastic device. 2 of the options that I use are the low cut filter and the peak limiter. You'll recall, if you watched the video on my mixing board, my Behringer Xenix 1204 USB, here I'll put a clicky thing up here, you can go and watch that. When I talked about gain staging my mic, well, on this board, the 4 microphone channels have a low cut switch on them. And that's going to cut out the lower frequencies that you don't need anyway. Those lower frequencies below 80 hertz, you need to just cut those out. They're of no value to you in your podcasts, or if you're producing audio for radio, any spoken word audio. No low frequencies. Low cut filter is your friend. The peak limiter is is working on board on the TASCAM itself. And so if it hears a signal coming through that it knows it's going to peak, it'll just block that. No peak for you. You're blocked. Another question that I have received is, why do you use outboard gear? Why not just record on the computer? Which is a very valid question. Now, I have seen over the years the podcast teachers and the experts say you don't want to record on your computer, because if you have a power outage or if your computer freezes in the middle of the recording, then you have lost what you've recorded so far, and it may have been fantastic audio. It may be the best that you have ever done. And that is a valid argument. It is a valid argument. It's not a good argument, not in my estimation. I've been doing this for over 12 years, and I've never had that happen. Knock on wood, of course. I have a different reason, and in my use case, a better reason for using outboard gear to record, and that is just my workflow, the way that we do podcasts here in the studio. And as I've said, we record live to tape, so everything that you hear on the podcast is what you hear, or what is going on in the studio in real time. And so I have 2 monitors on my computer with various windows open in order to perform the show, to record the show. And I want to be monitoring my recording levels. And so that I know if one person's mic is a little hotter than the others, I can adjust it on the faders on my mixing board, because I'm watching the recording levels coming into the DR05. Almost forgot the name of my digital audio recorder there. That's the reason why I do that. Another reason that I have this is for its portability. What if I want to do man-on-the-street type interviews, or I need to go in and take it to a group meeting or something that I want to get some footage? What if I want to go out and get some Foley, like nature sounds or cityscape sounds? This is a fantastic digital recorder for that. In fact, the other day I took it out in my backyard. It was nice and noisy out there. There were cicadas. Well, I'll explain it all right now. Let's go outside and see what this thing does. Here on the side of my house, my nice brick house, I thought it would make a great backdrop there, even though the lighting is not correct and there's all kinds of noise going on, cicadas going on. I'm next to two AC units, which are just blasting right now here as we are in the dog days of summer. And this will give a good idea of what this recorder can do out in the field if you're in a high traffic area or wherever you might be, a noisy area. So I set the recorder to mono input, and I raised the input levels up to about 45 or 50, right around there. You just have to play with these things and get your levels proper. I know that I'm hitting about negative 7 dBs when I get more animated, and that's about where I want to be. Oh, and my dead cat. That's why you can't hear, or you shouldn't hear, any wind noise. And there is a breeze going on right now. Kicks up and drops down. But for $8, you want a dead cat. Besides, that gives you the opportunity to tell all of your friends and loved ones, hey, I just got a dead cat for my recorder, my microphone. And they're horrified, and it's kind of fun. Now, I'm going to assume that that sounded pretty good. I haven't edited it yet, and I'll find out when this video is over. But I've used it that same exact way in the past, and it has never failed me. A couple of other things. You can power this via USB into your AC plug, or use batteries. I use batteries, and that's because I found that using the alternating current, I've heard noise on the recording, and I don't want any noise. I want to eliminate as much noise as I possibly can. And so, though it's less convenient, it's better on the final product that I use batteries. In fact, I use rechargeable batteries, and there's a setting in the menu. You can go in there and tell the TASCAM I'm using rechargeable batteries. It needs to know. There's a difference between rechargeable and disposable batteries. Well, that's enough of that. How do I use this unit? That's what this video is supposed to be about. First of all, 2-track out of my mixing board, using the RCA outs. They're coming into the unit via this 3.8 millimeter, this 1/8-inch jack into the mic in port. I set my audio at CD quality. Okay, wave. What is that? 16-bit. 44.1. I set it to stereo when I'm in the studio. You saw me outside in the backyard. When I'm just doing a interview type, set it to mono. I set it to mono. You can set it however you want. I have the mic power off. I've already mentioned that I have the peak limiter on, and I have the low cut filter on. And that's pretty much it. I use its basic functions. When I'm done with the recording, I plug in the USB cord and import the audio onto my computer and then on into my DAW and edit it, and everything's hunky-dory. I love this setup. It works for me, and it gets me the sound that I'm looking for. If you have any questions, if I wasn't clear on anything, if you'd want me to expand on anything about this digital audio recorder, just leave me a comment or a question down below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and click the little bell down there, and you will be notified anytime that I post a new video. And I'm thinking next time we're going to talk about microphone technique. Very important when you are recording audio. So until next time, go out there and produce something.